You ready? Nervous?
I'll ever be. I'm already uncomfortable.
Don't worry, I can cut this part out. Hello everyone and welcome to a Groovy Cuba production. My name is Nikolai Hunt. And I am joined for the first time ever by... What's your name?
Kristen?
No, your YouTube name.
I don't have a YouTube name.
Okay, fine. I'm here by Mama Mia. How's that?
No.
So about a week ago, I posted a video asking who wanted to hear our story about labor and delivery and just having a baby in general. She'll be a month old on Sunday. So we just wanted to sit down and kind of go through a bit of that because a lot of you seem really interested in what our story was. And Mama Mia, I'll let you take the floor.
What am I supposed to start?
I don't know. You want to start just labor and delivery, or we could go like through the whole.
What do you want me to do?
Let's go. Let's start with finding out we were pregnant.
Okay. How I found out I was pregnant?
Yeah, like specifically what you were doing, and then when you found out, because we had been checking for weeks at this point.
Like 2 months.
Yeah. And there was initially we thought we were pregnant in February, but then that was false. And then
uh-oh.
Shh, not right now.
We might need a passy.
Not right now.
Okay, maybe not. She's got more milk. It was April, I can't remember the exact.
April 28th, I want to say, because it was
the end of April.
It was like or maybe it was 27th. It's 2 days before Tavoken's birthday, and it was right before Tyler's wedding.
You good?
Sorry, we have Chatty Cathy with us today.
I was getting in the shower because I was about to go to work, and Nick was on his way home from work, and I had just gotten off the phone. I'm scared she's about to spit up. And I didn't say like anything. We had a normal conversation, and then I decided I was just going to take a pregnancy test, but I didn't think I was pregnant. I was just doing it just because. And literally, it turned 2 lines popped up immediately. And so, like, I don't think we were off the phone 2 seconds, and I called Nick back, and I told him I was pregnant.
I mean, it was literally, I'm driving home from work, get off the phone, I say, I'll see you in about 5 minutes, and you're right, it was less than a minute later. I get a call back, and she goes, Nick, guess what? And I was just like, what? She goes, I'm pregnant. I said, no, you're not. Because we've been checking so often, and I was like, there's no way that you took one just a few days ago that was negative, and now this one just popped up positive immediately,
and it
like
was
she was
very
saying.
dark, and so I thought I was further along than what I was, but I was like barely pregnant. I was like 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, because
probably about 3 weeks.
Yeah, and they nailed our delivery date.
We had to go to Cary that weekend where my sister is, and we said we weren't going to tell anybody, but I was dying to tell somebody, so I told my sister. She was the first person to know, and she started crying. But then after I told my sister, she's like, you have to tell Mom because I can't keep this in. Yeah,
so then eventually everybody found out well before. I mean, I think we wanted to do a gender reveal and maybe announcement and everything, but everyone close to us already knew.
Yeah, our siblings and parents knew pretty soon before I went to the doctor. And then I went to the doctor, and I was only 5 weeks and 5 days, but she had a heartbeat.
That was amazing.
Was amazing.
I mean, she was literally a tiny speck on an ultrasound.
She was the size of a mustard seed.
And you could see like this orange glow. Well, I won't say orange.
Well, you could just see a pulse, like a little pulse, like the heart pulsating, and I just thought that was amazing. And what a little miracle that you can see a baby's heartbeat at only 5 weeks and 5 days. And so they said the baby has a heartbeat, but you're so early on that you're going to need to come back in 2 weeks to confirm like the pregnancy's viable and everything like that. When I went to that first appointment, they said January 7th was my due date. So 2 weeks go by, I go back, and sure enough, everything was fine. And then they told me January 5th,
which is hilarious.
Which that's her birthday, but they said the estimated due date at the second ultrasound was January 5th, but they were going to go with the first ultrasound, which was January 7th. So technically her due date was January 7th. However, she was born on the 5th, which is
It was-
what they
it
told me
was-
the second time.
It was amazing that she came on her own right at her due date.
Yeah,
though.
she was like pretty much almost 40 weeks.
But before we get into that, I want you to talk a little bit about your first trimester. And
Oh my gosh. It was awful. Well, I was really sick, and I was sick pretty early on, and I didn't have morning sickness. I had all day sickness. And I would like get sick, not every day, but most days, but I dry heaves all the time, and it was the worst thing in the entire world.
Zofran was a lifesaver.
Zofran saved my life. Some people are against Zofran when you're pregnant, but that was the only thing that helped me. And I was sick probably until I was 18 or 19 weeks. So that was really rough. I would like go to work and I would be sitting at the nurse's station just dry heaving, and felt so bad because it's really disgusting, but like I couldn't control it. And I couldn't even walk in the kitchen because every time I walk in the kitchen I would dry heave. Couldn't open the refrigerator, couldn't open the pantry. That was the rough part. And then when I was almost 9 weeks when we went and did a blood test.
Yeah.
We did a blood test. I really wanted to know the gender. I hate to say
We
this.
both wanted a girl.
I really wanted a daughter. I've always wanted a daughter, but I was going to be happy either way.
Okay, hang on. I think everybody has their preference for the first
Yeah.
kid. Honestly, I think everybody has their preference. It's one of those unspoken things. Of course, if we were having a boy, I mean, I'm huge into sports. She would really like the idea of going and watching T-ball games and everything.
Oh yeah, I was like accepted the fact that if it was a boy, like I was going to be a baseball mom, and I was really excited about it. But I grew up, I danced for 15 years. I was a cheerleader. I'm obsessed with the color pink, so and I wanted like to dress up a little girl, and put bows in her hair. So that's like why I wanted a girl. But I was gonna be really excited if it was a boy because I was gonna totally be a baseball mom.
I think prefer is a bad word. It's more. We kind of saw ourselves having a girl first, we were just kind of set on that.
Ideally, I'd like a boy and a girl, so like I wouldn't have been mad either way. I don't know.
If there is a baby number two.
If there's a baby number two.
But after
that's
first
up
trimester.
to God.
After the first trimester, though, it got a little bit better. When did you get diagnosed with GDI?
I was almost 16 weeks. I have a family history of diabetes, so I had to take an early glucose test. Didn't think anything of it. I had worked until 3:30 in the morning the night before. We were really busy at work that night. I didn't eat a full meal. I like snacked on fruit and like Cheez-Its. So that morning, I think my doctor's appointment was first thing at 8. Went in, did the glucose test. Didn't think anything of it. Lo and behold, 16 weeks pregnant, I get diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and I was tore slam up over it.
And your sugar was really high.
My sugar was really high, which was really weird.
They wanted it to be 140, and I think it was...
I wasn't going to share that part.
Oh, okay, I can cut it out.
They didn't even give me the option to take the 3-hour test. It was high, so they automatically diagnosed me. I had to check my blood sugar 4 times a day, fasting, and then after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I had to like completely change my diet. My first trimester, I really didn't even eat that much. I ate what I could. I ate a lot of potatoes, baked potatoes, like starchy foods, and I drank Sprite and ginger ale, which not a healthy diet, but you just eat what you can when you're in that phase because you get sick. The thing about it was, for me, it was carbs that affected my blood sugar, and if you've never experienced it, having to cut back your carb level is really difficult. Because you would be surprised like what things have carbs and what things have sugar.
Cutting out sugar was not the hard part.
That was not the hard part. It was carbs because I love potatoes.
Yeah.
And any kind of fried food. But
I mean, potatoes, mac and cheese. The list goes on.
I had to learn to eat a lot of grilled meat, and I learned
pastas. I said mac and cheese, but pastas in general.
Yeah, I had to eat a lot of protein, and I could have like a certain, I think it was like between 30 and 40 grams carbs a meal is what I could tolerate to keep my blood sugar where it needed to be. So I ate a lot of grilled meat, which I'm now sick of, and vegetables. And really weird that I love salad usually, but when I got pregnant, I hated the taste of lettuce, so that was really difficult.
I think that was me because I hate lettuce.
And
she was carrying my child.
I was never a milk drinker, and I drank so much milk when I was pregnant. I could only have a cup at a time because it has sugars and carbs in it, but I drank a lot of milk, and I craved chocolate chip cookies, which I normally am not a chocolate chip cookie lover, but Nick is.
The milk was more for the acid reflux.
Yeah, I had really bad reflux. But yeah, I had to completely change my diet, check my blood sugar 4 times a day, and I was bound and determined I didn't want to go on medicine. I didn't want to be on insulin. I wanted it to control it with diet, and I wanted her to be healthy, because I knew that if I didn't control my sugar, she could have low blood sugars at birth, or she could be too big, and I wanted to do everything possible to keep her safe. So from that point on until I delivered, I was on a strict diet. But she turned out everything was fine. She was totally normal weight, and she had no issues with her blood sugar after birth. So apparently I did a good job.
Yeah.
I worked really hard.
So the second trimester, like the worst part was GDM.
And I got COVID. Never had COVID.
Wasn't that third trimester?
No, I was 19 weeks.
Oh man, yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, I had not had COVID at all, like this whole pandemic, and then I get COVID when I was in my second trimester of being pregnant. And I got along fine. I mean, I couldn't take any decongestants, and that was hard because I was really congested, but other than that, I did fine, and she was fine, but it was really scary because didn't know what to expect. But
yeah. So after she had COVID, we went back for another checkup, and
we went in for my anatomy scan, and everything looked fine, but they couldn't get all the pictures of her heart because she's always been very active in the womb, like she moved all the time. So she wasn't in a position where they could get all the pictures of her heart. So they said, "Well, come back." I think I went back in like 2 weeks, and we had another anatomy scan. So I went in for an anatomy scan. I thought everything was going to be fine because everything was good the last time. They just need to get pictures of her heart. Every time we went, her heartbeat sounded normal. It was a normal rate. I didn't think anything of it. So after that ultrasound, I went in to see the midwife, and she told me that the baby's heart appeared enlarged, and they were referring me to maternal fetal medicine, and that she could have abnormalities because of the gestational diabetes that I had. And so I completely lost it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just want your baby to be healthy, and then all of a sudden I was convinced that she wasn't, and so I was, oh shoot.
Oh, hello. Oh no. We interrupted this program.
I might have to hold her, my arm's getting tired.
We had a strong, very strong baby.
It's just really strong. But
okay, go ahead. We got referred to maternal
so
fetal
I got
med.
referred to maternal fetal med, which was like an hour away, and I was I was so upset. I was devastated. I thought something was wrong. All they told me that was her heart was enlarged and she could have abnormalities because of GDM, but they didn't tell me if her heart was enlarged what that meant. And so I had a really hard time with that. I was very emotional for a while. Not many people knew, our family knew, and then I had people in my church praying for her because I was just really devastated, but I didn't want a lot of people to know what was going on. So we go to maternal fetal med. They do an ultrasound. And when I went to that ultrasound, they said that her aorta was enlarged, and they would like us to meet with a pediatric cardiologist if we were interested from Duke.
They still never told us. I still don't know what it would mean if it was enlarged. Maybe the cardiologist told us.
Well, the reason I was so worried is because when the midwife told me that her heart was enlarged and they were referring me to maternal fetal med, I used to be a labor and delivery nurse, and I do mother baby now, so I knew if you got referred to maternal fetal med, you were kind of high risk, so that's what scared me. And then when she told me that, she was like, "You may need to deliver at a hospital with a higher level of care." So I saw the pediatric cardiologist. Everything measured fine. She was totally normal, which was, praise the Lord, that was an answered prayer. And we give God all the glory for that. And the only thing they mentioned was that she could possibly have an atrial septal defect when she was born, and to follow up after she was born. She may have a murmur at birth and all that stuff. So now I'll get to that later. But we were very blessed, very fortunate. Everything was good. We didn't have to deliver at a higher level of care. I continued to see maternal fetal med up until I was 35 weeks. They were doing growth ultrasounds because I had GDM. And I had to send in a blood sugar log every week. But at 35 weeks, she was actually measuring small. So they said, no need, you're doing what you're supposed to do. There's no need to continue to see you. So I stopped going to MFM at 35 weeks. I did have to go in because I had GDM. I think when I turned 35 or 36 weeks, I started going to my regular OB, and I had to have like weekly non-stress tests and weekly ultrasounds to check my fluid levels. But all of those, every time we had an NST, she passed instantly. She was very healthy.
Yeah.
And I never had any problems with my fluid level. So that's like my pregnancy.
Yeah. Started off
kind of rough. Had a little scare in the middle there, but
the third trimester was just get this baby out.
I was just so miserable. I would go to work and my ankles would swell up so big, and that was not fun. But oh no, that's not in my pregnancy. I was 38 weeks on Christmas Eve, and then on Christmas Day night I get sick, and like at this point I'm like, okay, the baby can come at any day. And I get the worst sinus infection I've ever had in my entire life. And I was so miserable for like a week. I got put on antibiotics. And I was praying to God, like, please do not let this baby come until I get over being sick. Because all I could imagine was being in labor. And I can't breathe through my nose because I was so congested.
Yeah, the biggest thing, if she could just take a decongestant, she would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah, but you're so limited when you're pregnant. I could take Benadryl and Tylenol pretty much.
39 weeks pregnant with the worst sinus
I've never
infection.
been so sick in my life, and I was running fevers, and I would wake up like drenched in sweat in the middle of the night because I was running fevers. I did not sleep much at all those past couple of days. So anyway, I ended up getting better, got put on an antibiotic, I got better. They never checked to see if I was dilated at any of my doctor's appointments, so I had no idea if I was like making any progress or anything. I started drinking red raspberry leaf tea at like 36 weeks. And I swear by it.
Hey, we're smiling. She smiled.
She's sweet. I bounced on a birthing ball a little bit, but otherwise I really didn't do anything to induce labor. I just, went about my daily business. So, I was scheduled to go in. So I was Friday, January 6th. I would have been 39 weeks and 6 days.
Mm-hmm. And we were going to go in and schedule an induction.
I was supposed to go to the doctor that day, and they were going to schedule an induction because I had GDM. They wanted to induce me at 40 weeks if she didn't come on her own. I just didn't want to be induced because I knew from my experience that a lot of times moms do so much better when they're
just go natural.
When they just go natural. It's just easier when your body's ready. It's just easier. So I woke up. Well, actually, no, contraction woke me up.
Well, I get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work.
This was January 4th on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And she wants to be part of it.
She's so cute.
She's looking at the camera. At about 5:45, she wakes up and kind of jumps.
Yeah, I was asleep, and I get this pain that starts in my back and comes around. And I was like, well, that's weird. I was like, Nick's in the bathroom getting ready. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think I just had a contraction, but I don't know if it's just Braxton Hicks. I had Braxton Hicks for a couple of weeks at that point, and I thought they were Braxton Hicks. I really didn't know because I've never had a baby before. But I could feel my stomach get tight. And so I'm like, pretty sure they're Braxton Hicks. Well, this felt different. And I was like, that's really weird. So Nick's like, well, I said, that's, it woke me up from my sleep. That's how strong it was. I mean, it wasn't like unbearable, but it was obviously uncomfortable because I was dead asleep and then I woke up. So he said, well, do I need to stay home from work? I was like, no, go home. I was like, I'll call you if I need you. So then I'm like, 6 minutes later? I think it was like 6 or 7 minutes later, I had another one. And I was like, okay.
Do I need to go to work?
I was like, let me just see what happens. Like, I tried to go back to sleep, but I kept having them like every 6 or so minutes. So I really didn't want to go to the hospital and be sent home. Because, like, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm probably in early labor. I'm 39 weeks and 4 days. I'm probably just in early labor. You can be in early labor for days. So I go about my day. I call my mom, and I say, hey, this is what's going on. I said, I don't know if I'm just in early labor, if I'm in labor at all, if I'm just having Braxton Hicks. I don't really know. I said, I tell you that it feels different than what I felt. So my mom's like, you should go get checked. And I'm home alone. So
yeah, I had a big meeting that morning.
You had a meeting that day.
And I just remember sitting at the end of the table. I don't know what was discussed. I'm just sitting there, and I've told everybody what's going on. Everybody knows we're expecting, and around it was going to be that week. And I just remember my face. I could feel my face going, do I need to go home? I'm waiting on my phone to ring, and she hasn't called me.
Yeah, I said, just keep your phone on loud because I knew he had a big meeting and he was going to be in a meeting. I said, if I need you, I'll call you. I said, so if I call you, I said, I will not call you unless I really need you to come home. So I said, if I call you, just go ahead and leave. So my mom was like, well, do you need me to come up there? I said, no, because I just think I'm being a wimp. I think I'm like in early labor. So I start timing my contractions.
They were 6 minutes apart.
They were 6 minutes apart from the time I woke up that morning.
Until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, so they were maybe 6 or 7 minutes. So my mom's like offering to come up here, and I said, no, I'll call Nick if I need him. I don't really think I said, I can't be in active labor. But while I was FaceTiming my mom, and I had to like stop talking to her to breathe through it, and she's like, okay, you're definitely in labor. And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm like, it's not that bad, but it kind of hurts a little bit. So about noon.
Yeah, after my meeting, I went and told my boss, I was like, should I go home? He goes, has
I
your
called
wife's,
you.
Has your wife's contractions? No, you told me to call you.
Yeah, I said, call me after. I texted Nick, I said, call me after your meeting, because I was talking to my mom, and my mom's like, well, maybe you should call your OB office and just see if you can go get checked to see. That way you don't go to the hospital and they send you home. So I was like, okay. My doctor's office closes for like a lunch period, so about noon, Nick calls me. And I tell him what's going on. I said, I'm just kind of a little freaked out because I'm home by myself. I said, I am contracting every 6 minutes. I said, I don't know if this is anything. Bless her heart.
Oh, God. Okay.
I said, I don't know if this is anything, but I would feel better if he came home. So he comes home. I'm still contracting, but then I feel like they spaced out a little bit once you got home.
They were still
like,
pretty consistent.
I had a couple that were probably like 10 minutes apart, and I was like, well, maybe they're spacing out. I'm just in early labor. And I even told Nick, I said, tell your boss I'm sorry I made you come home, because I was like, this is probably just a false alarm. So a little while later, they kind of pick back up out every 6 minutes. You get home like what time? 12:30 probably.
Yeah, so around noon.
So we sit here going back and forth. Should I go to the doctor to see if I'm dilated? I ended up calling the nurse hotline about 3-ish, and I say,
having contractions
hey,
6
I've been
minutes
having
apart.
contractions since like 6 o'clock this morning, about 6 or 7 minutes apart. Should I go get checked? And she said, well, it sounds like to me you're in labor. She said, take a shower, get your bags packed. She said, you can take your time and go to the hospital. And then I'm like, I still didn't think I was in labor because I sat there and debated it. Finally, I just said, okay, let's go get checked and make sure. So we go to the hospital about 4. I tell them what's going on, and I even tell the nurse, I'm like, I have no idea if this is labor. I may be overreacting. I said, but I've never had babies, so I don't know. So she checks me. I was 3 centimeters dilated and 100% effaced. So my cervix was like completely thinned out. So they tell me, you could be in early labor. What we're going to have you do is walk the halls for an hour. If you make any cervical change, we'll keep you. If not, we'll send you home. So I walk the halls for an hour, and while I'm walking the halls, I start contracting like every 4 minutes. And I was like having to stop in the hallway and breathe through them. I mean, they were getting stronger. So then they check me after I walk the halls an hour, and they're like, you're not making any cervical change. We think you're in early labor. Go home and take some Benadryl. If your water breaks or you start contracting like every 2 or 3 minutes, come back. And I'm like, okay, but at this point, they're kind of getting stronger, but they're telling me I'm not making any cervical change, so I think I'm being a wimp. So I'm like, apparently I'm just in early labor. So we get home
like 6:30.
6:30, and they start getting so intense, like
unbearable.
I'm crying. I'm like leaned over the bathroom counter, crying. I've got Nick putting pressure on my back because I had back labor. They were like really strong in my back. And Nick's like, I'll take you back right now. And I'm like, well, we just got home and they told me I'm not doing anything and I don't want to go again and get sent back home. And I'm just sitting there like praying to God. My mom and my sister are telling me to go back to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go back to the hospital because they're just going to send me home. So I'm just praying for my water to break. So I get up and go to the bathroom and I've lost my mucus plug. And so then I look at Nick and I said, I'm pretty sure my water's about to break. I said, I just lost my mucus plug. I said, I think my water's going to break.
And like 20 to 30 minutes later,
I'm sitting there. I have a huge contraction and I feel pop. And I said, Nick, my water just broke. Let's go.
a sprint. Sprint out the door.
Because I knew that when my water, I was already getting a lot of pain, and I knew once my water broke, they were going to get more intense, and I wanted my epidural, and I knew I couldn't just walk in the door and get epidural. I knew I had to like wait and get a bolus and get an IV and do admission paperwork and all that stuff. So I was like, my water breaks, let's go. So my water broke at 8:55. We had been home just over 2 hours, and my water breaks at 8:55. We get to the hospital, it's like 9:15. We don't live but 5 minutes from the hospital. We get to the hospital, and I was like, I was just here 2 hours ago. I said, but my water broke. So now I was like, I knew they were going to admit me. So she comes in and checks me. I was almost 5 centimeters when I got there. She said I was 4 to 5. She said she almost could have called me at 5 centimeters. Mm-hmm. She said basically I was 5 centimeters. So I said, listen, I'm not trying to be difficult. I said, but as soon as I get my epidural, I want my epidural. I was not trying to be
not out to prove
She asked me what I was going to do for pain. I said, skip the IV pain medicine. That's like spitting in the wind. Give me the epidural. So I had to like get an IV, go through all the admission stuff. So I mean, I was waiting there probably a good hour and a half. And at this point, they're coming like probably every 2 to 3 minutes, and they're stronger. And I'm like, I'm not the type of person to scream in pain. I get why people do scream when they're in labor. That's just not me. But I was in tears, and there was a clock in there, and every time I would have a contraction, I would just stare at that clock and count it, like look at the seconds counting down to, when it would be over. So finally the anesthesiologist comes in, and before I got pregnant, Nick was like ready to have a baby, and I was too, but I was just scared of actually having a baby.
I'm a lot older than Kristen.
No, you're not. I was like just scared about having the baby, the delivery, and getting an epidural. I've never had any anesthesia. I've never had any kind of surgery, so I was really scared. So he comes in, and fun fact, we saw him in the hall earlier that day. And I was walking the halls, and he said, walk that baby out. And I said, I'm trying. He said, are you going to get an epidural? I said, yes, sir. I said, are you my guy? And he said, yep, if you deliver tonight. Mm-hmm. So lo and behold, he walks in the room. He says, you're the hall walker. I said, yeah. I said, I left.
That was funny.
I said, I left, but I had to come back. So I sent Nick out of the room to get my epidural because he...
Oh, God, yeah, that was something else.
He's a fainter.
She was worried the entire time I was going to faint. It just...
So I sent Nick out. My mom was in there with me.
But it's a sterile procedure. I mean, a lot of hospitals make you get out of the room.
So they only let one person stay in there anyways, but Nick, I think you agreed that you probably should step out because...
I went out on my own.
Yeah. So he steps out, and when he leaves, I'm crying.
And when I come back, it was like she had been on a beach vacation for 2.5 weeks, and I mean...
He comes back in, and I said, I'm Gucci now.
That's exactly... I'm Gucci now. And she was. I mean, I don't think you felt... I mean, you knew you were having a contraction, but did you feel...
I could just feel pressure. Yeah. But anyway, the anesthesiologist was like the angel... God sent him to be my anesthesiologist because he did such a good job. I wish I knew the man's name because I need to write him a thank you note. But he was, there's like, they go through all the rest of the procedure, and he said my goal was to get 70 to 80% of your pain taken care of. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes you can get a spinal headache. And at this point, I didn't even care. I was like, just put the epidural in. So he puts the epidural in. He puts it in immediately. Takes no time. They tell me they're going to numb me with lidocaine. It's going to feel like a bee sting. I didn't feel anything. I think because I was having so much pain from the contraction that I didn't. When he put the lidocaine in, it was like nothing. So then he says you're going to feel pressure when I put the catheter in. Again, I didn't feel anything. So I get the epidural, the best decision of my entire life.
So
highly
this
recommend.
is funny. Labor and delivery nurses aren't allowed to tell you, yes, get the epidural, but former labor and delivery nurse is not telling you to do it. But if you're asking recommendations, if
it was me, I'd get one. But I mean, there are risks that comes with it, and I get that's why people don't want to get them. And I thought the same thing, but it was worth it for me. Anyway, after that, the guy he leaves, and I look at my mom and Nick, and I said, "Y'all need to go buy that man's dinner and tell him it's for me because he just saved my life." I'm telling you, that pain is like nothing you've ever experienced. I'm glad I got to experience, because now I know, because you always wonder what it's like, what it feels like to have contractions and have a baby.
You're more grateful for the epidural after you felt those contractions, especially once your water broke.
Yeah, but it was totally worth it for me. So I get my epidural. Right after I get my epidural, they check me, and she said, well, you're 6 to 7 centimeters, and the baby has come down. She said, I think if I give you the peanut ball, at this point it's like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. She said, if I give you the peanut ball, I think we're going to have a baby. So I'm laying there. She's like, try to get a nap. So me, Mom, and Nick are all in there trying to shut our eyes. The lights are out.
Oh, I want to add this. So she was terrified that I'm going to faint during the delivery.
Yeah.
And I know when I'm going to faint. I really don't do it often. I've done it twice since we've been married, though. And I can just tell, like, this... Like, I feel the color leave my face, and I start to get really hot and shaky. And what was funny was, she was like, all right, we're getting ready to have a baby. Like, whenever they gave her the peanut ball, I was freezing for some reason. I know the vent was blowing, and it might have been a little colder in there for the delivery, because I think you were actually pretty warm.
Yeah, I was fine.
I just realized all of a sudden, I was like, I need a blanket, a jacket, because I'm typically a pretty hot-natured person. I put my pants on, I put my coat on, I put whatever blanket they gave me.
I think you were anxious too, though, because like you knew it was about to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think...
I was really calm, and I'm a very anxious person, but I was probably the calmest I've ever been in my entire life. Well, I was laying there, and I look at Nick, and I said, Nick, I said, can you go get her? I said, because I feel a lot of pressure. And so...
And she, they can monitor her at the nurse's station. So I opened the door, and the nurse's station's right there. And I said, she's feeling a lot of pressure. And she's looking at the monitor. She goes, I figured she probably was, and comes on in. And then... She
checks me, and lo and behold, I was 10 centimeters. And this is probably like 145, 150. The nurse has me do a couple of practice pushes. And... I pushed probably like 3 times. I can't tell if I'm moving the baby. So I'm like...
Completely numb.
Yeah, I was, numb. I could feel pressure, but like, I couldn't tell if she was descending. So I was like, is she... I said, is she moving down? She said, oh yeah. So then I'd do a couple pushes, and then she goes, stop.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And she said, I gotta go get the doctor, because we're about to have a baby. That's way too bright. That sun is in my face. So then the doctor comes in. They're telling me not to push. I'm sitting there like thinking, okay, don't push. But at some point,
natural instinct.
At some point, the baby just kind of moves on its own. So the doctor comes in. I pushed not even 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And she was out.
And this is 2 a.m. So her water breaks
at 8:55 p.m. and she was born at 2:09 a.m.
Yeah. So about, what's that, 5 hours?
Which was another answered prayer. I had a lot of people. I had been praying for a quick, easy, smooth delivery my entire pregnancy, and I had a lot of people in my church praying for me, and it was an answered prayer. It couldn't have gone any smoother.
Raspberry leaf tea.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I give all the glory to God, but the raspberry leaf tea might have helped a little bit. But
yeah, it's supposed to soften your cervix, or
it the box says it prepares your womb for labor. I don't know if it really did anything. I like to think it does. If I have another baby, I'll drink it again. But
yeah,
she's smiling. But I had worried about that for so long, and it was like the biggest relief. She came out completely healthy, no issues. Blood sugars were normal. I was totally fine. It really could not have gone any smoother. And then now she's totally healthy. She's gaining weight. We are going to see a cardiologist to do a follow-up echo just to make sure there's no hole in her heart. They didn't hear a murmur after birth, so we're not really concerned. But just to make sure, give us peace of mind.
Yeah.
But we're both doing really well. She's healthy and I'm healthy. And that was probably the easiest
part of the pregnancy.
Labor and delivery was the easiest part of my entire pregnancy.
Yep. Yeah. And then we got discharged. Well, we got discharged a little early. They pretty much left us alone. I was like, yeah, she's a postpartum nurse. And they kind of were like, oh, she's got this. And we didn't have any issues. One thing that was really funny was the lady from the cafeteria brought her breakfast one morning and looked at me and said, we have a Starbucks downstairs next to the cafeteria. Apparently, I looked like I'd been through it. But
she had cluster fed that night. We were up the entire night.
Yeah. Yeah. That's starting to get better. The past 2 nights, she's done pretty good sleeping.
Yeah, she's up every 3 hours, but she's really a good baby though. She doesn't sleep long, but she's a good baby. She's really sweet. That's it. What else do you want me to say?
That's our story. Now we've got a 4-week-old baby, who'll soon to be a month old, and we'll keep you posted. She's funny. She's really strong, which is hilarious. She likes to grab hair. Her neck, I swear, is stronger than it should be. Oh, I forgot to say this. She was 7 pounds 4 ounces, which is a good weight for a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But she was 21 inches long. And I don't know if you can tell, my wife here is not the tallest in the world. And the baby, she's born, and the nurse says, "That's a big baby for you." And now we figure out why, she was so cramped in there, and like she likes to do her legs like this because she didn't have a whole lot of room.
No, she's long.
But
I just think it's funny that I have a tall baby. She's in like the 95th percentile for length.
yeah.
She's the average weight, but the 95th percentile for length. So she's tall.
All right. Kinsley, you got anything to say? She looked like she was about to say something.
She's really sweet. She came out with a head full of hair, which I was happy about because I had really bad heartburn. So that was my prize for all that heartburn.
And she's alert. She doesn't like to sleep.
She was never a sleepy newborn from the moment she came out bright-eyed. But that's it.
I think that's
Praise
it.
the Lord. She's healthy and I'm healthy. And I told Nick I would share my story just because I feel like it was an answered prayer and a testimony because
it's encouraging, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like God, my entire pregnancy, I just feel like I could see God in it even when it was really hard. I could always see that God was there and He answered our prayers and gave us a perfectly healthy baby girl, and I had a really smooth delivery, and we couldn't ask for anything more. That's it.
That's everything. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more videos like this, leave us some questions in the comments if you want us to do like a Q&A or anything. Kristen, thank you for finally being in a video. I've been trying to get you for like 5 years to do one with me.
This is really out of my comfort zone.
Are you gonna let me post this?
I don't know. We'll have to watch it back.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. Unrelated topic. I know this is kind of a different style of content. Obviously, I'm looking towards doing some more game streaming pretty soon. I'm very excited about Tuesday. But yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you all. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. And always remember to keep it groovy.
See ya.